Welcome to the Jersey City Mayoral Debate. I'm Pat O'Melia, the host of The City Show. My co-moderator is John Heinis. He is the host of Hudson County Live and Hudson County View on the internet. As you know, we have two candidates for mayor here. The present mayor, Stephen Fulop, and his opponent, Lewis Spears. And this debate will go for 90 minutes. We will take 2 8-minute breaks. There will be rebuttal time. Each candidate will get an opening and closing statement. So we might as well get this thing going. You want to go with the first question, John?
We'll let them open.
Oh, that's right, yeah, we got to do the opening. I did that again. I did that in Ward D. Lewis, opening statement.
Oh, I thought you were going to have us do rock, paper, scissors. No, that's not how it
Nah,
works.
let's go. You're the new guy.
Right.
Go ahead. We'll give you the break.
All right.
He's done this a lot.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lewis Spears, and I was born and raised right here in Jersey City. My upbringing and Booker T projects, Booker T, stand up, prepared me for my educational expectations at Harvard University, where I obtained a graduate degree in leadership. Given opportunities to go elsewhere, I decided to come right back to Jersey City to start my nationally recognized organization, Kismet of Kings, where we have affected the lives of about 400 young men and their families over the past 9 years. I am running for mayor because I believe that you deserve to be here. To the parent who is struggling between buying food or paying for rent because the rental assistance program is delayed, you deserve to be here. To the firefighter who just passed the biggest test but can't afford to live here in Jersey City because we have not passed a robust inclusionary zoning ordinance, you deserve to be here. To the teacher who has spent a lot of his money on supplies for his classroom because our schools have been underfunded, you deserve to be here. As a son of Jersey City, I'm committed to ensuring that Jersey City becomes the place that our children are proud to inherit. Jersey City, you have an opportunity to elect a mayor who has your best interests at heart. Again,
seconds.
my name is Lewis Spears. Your choice for mayor because you deserve to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Lewis. Mayor?
Yeah, first let me say thank you to the two moderators and thank you to Lewis for having this dialogue. It is a privilege to be here and talk about the last 8 years and the next 4 years. I want to bring people back for a second and talk about where we started. When we took office, Jersey City was at a very different point, and people take that for granted. There was no development away from the waterfront. Taxes were increasing exponentially every single year. The police department was at its historical lows. The city was a laughingstock with historical amounts of arrests for corruption. And we came in on a reform platform, and we've largely accomplished most of what we set out to do and started that, which we want to finish. When you look at us today, we've moved the needle meaningfully on every single front, whether it's helping our most vulnerable, whether it's making it an arts destination, whether it's making the city safer. We are moving the city in the right direction unquestionably. And I'm proud to talk about our accomplishments today and our tangible platform. This is not just about rhetoric, this is about experience and a platform to move the city forward. So I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to have this conversation and looking forward to a robust dialogue.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'm going to lead off. So let's start with Suez Water. So obviously Hurricane Ida was just about a month and a half ago, and that impacted the entire state. Of course, there were unfortunately some fatalities, and there was damage across, again, the state, the county, each municipality. So, there's a lot of conversations about what do we do now with Suez Water. There's an ad hoc committee being convened by the city council. Do you think at some point in the foreseeable future we need to get rid of the Suez contract? Why or why not? And we'll start with Mayor Fulop.
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait to see what the city council says as a starting point. That is a contract that goes out via an RFP, and we get responses from public companies with what they think is the best for our water system. It isn't as if we go out and unilaterally select one company. We get proposals back and we go with who is the best interest from an experience standpoint and from an economical standpoint. Now, there's no question that Suez has had issues, but the big question is, Is there a better route? Is there a better provider that can handle the infrastructure and have familiarity with it today in Jersey City? And can they do it in a cost-effective way that is important to us? And that's unclear because when we go out for bid, the responses that we get are largely from the larger companies. So the council is having an important conversation. I'm not sure that the response or the results of Ida flooding would have been different. What should have been different was the response from Suez with regards to the water out after when they had the water shutdown and the infrastructure issues. But ultimately, I think we need to see what the council says, and then I'm open to staying with them or going back out to an RFP. Best working with the council on this.
All right, thank you. Louis, what's your take?
So I believe Suez had multiple opportunities to get it correct, right? Just their behavior during Hurricane Ida was unacceptable. And just, you know, the water bottles that were passed out downtown, whereas on the hill, where there's the most vulnerable population, they're asking folks to bring buckets of water, buckets so that they could put water in them. How unfair and how inequitable. We should have been very vigilant about having a liaison who is connected to Jersey City and who could speak to us when problems arise, right? So I was underwhelmed by their performance, and I'll be open to replacing them if we could.
Okay. Let me go back. I mean, I want to pick up where we left last time because we got to deal with facts on this. We shouldn't alienate and polarize one part of the city versus the other. There's no question that there's differences that we need to bridge that gap. But that is just not true that there were water buffaloes in one part of the city and not water buffaloes in the other part of the city. As a matter of fact, there happened to be more water bottles on the south side of the city than downtown because we were diligent and mindful of this. But the reality is that where his point is adequate, and what I said as well, is that Suez's response had a lot of gaps in it. But you know, this is about choices and opportunities. I wish we had a better option tomorrow, but we're not sure that it exists because of the size of the water infrastructure that we have. So, like I said, I mean, we're open to it. We got to deal with facts and reality, but we'll see what the council comes back with.
Anything further, Louis?
Let me just say this, right? When I spoke to someone who actually lives on Armstrong and was asked, what was your experience like? She goes, I went there and they were late. And then I had to go back home, and someone called me and said, if you're gonna come, then you need to bring your bucket. So what is there to say? When I looked online and I saw what was happening downtown, there were bottles. So were people downtown asked to bring buckets? So this is the reality. I'm not trying to create a division between the two communities. All I'm trying to say is we have to be clear about the messages that we're sending to different parts of the community when we aren't being equitable in our efforts to support them.
Let me just say, we cannot make up history here, okay? We can't say that there was a water buffalo here and not over there when the reality was that we had them in both places. I get it that it's easy politically to say that. I get it, but that's just not true. As a matter of fact, the most amount of water bottles happen to be at the Bethune Center located at Warren F because Councilman Jermaine Robinson purchased them himself with Denise Ridley. So I know for a fact that that was the case. Now, look, we shouldn't be arguing about water buffaloes because it's ultimately irrelevant to the long-term future of the city. Right. We're talking about water infrastructure here and whether change or not change. And I think we both agree that we're open to it. But my point is we can't just make things up to polarize different parts of the community. We can't make up facts. We should deal with facts and reality. And that what he just said was just not true. Okay? So
final thought, Louis, or would you care to move on?
No, so in general, right, we're going to see things fundamentally different. I'll stop there. We can move on.
Thank you.
On that point, we don't see things different. That's my point. We don't see things different. We see it as important to find a solution for Suez. The problem is that I have a problem with the conversation is that the easy rhetoric to alienate and polarize one part of the city versus the other. We're about bringing people together and finding solutions. Saying that this part had something that this other part didn't have when it's not true, that's problematic. That's not leadership. There clearly are gaps. We agree on the solution here. We agree. But my point is that you can't do that. It's just not right.
I like saying water buffalo. Cool.
Water buffalo,
We
you know
don't
what,
get to
water
say that
buffalo,
in Jersey
that's what we
City,
call it
water
in the
buffalo.
military. I assume that that's what we call it here.
Just a quick follow-up on this before I go to my question. Is there any consideration for the city going back to having its own water department? We had that prior to Brett Schundler. Brett Schundler gave us the MUA and United Water that would later become Suez Water. Is that a
This one
consideration?
me first or him first?
Mayor.
Lou,
No, Mayor, he's the guy he's sitting at the big table right now in the mayor's office.
From my standpoint, it would not be cost efficient, and you would be hammering the residents from a taxpayer standpoint with tax increases, and that's something we've tried to avoid. So I don't think that is the best option. I think maybe pursuing other potential partners works better, and hopefully will maybe right the ship on Suez as well, and this investigation from the city council. But I generally don't think bringing that in-house will accomplish much on this. Look, the flooding that happened was problematic because you've had decades upon decades of a lack of investment in infrastructure. So as you see climate change happening more frequently, you're going to see that sort of thing if we don't catch up. That's why the Biden bill is very, very important. But besides that point, no, I don't think that it's going to be cost effective or realistic. Anybody who says that just hasn't run the numbers.
Lewis, in-house or keep it outdoors?
So I see the benefit of doing something like this in-house in terms of providing jobs and opportunities for the folks in Jersey City. But I would love to explore a little bit more when it comes to the numbers, right? Because I want to make sure that it makes sense for us in Jersey City to run such a program in our city.
All right, my first question. This is actually my 8th debate I've produced and or moderated in the last month from 6 wards, and last night we just had the at-large. There was one common thread between all of those debates, the lack of parking in Jersey City.
Okay.
Lewis, how do you address the lack of parking in Jersey City?
So in general, we want to make sure that we encourage, non-driving opportunities. So in each ward, for instance, I'll use B for instance. Folks in Ward B, if we're trying to fix the parking thing, because we already know that parking is a symptom of being overcrowded, essentially, right? And so we're asking people, for instance, in Ward B, to not use cars. However, there are 2 supermarkets in that community that don't provide quality food for folks in that community. So how are we asking them to, not drive when they need to go elsewhere to find affordable quality food? So in general, I want to make sure that if we are encouraging folks not to walk, not to drive, Pat, and we to fix our parking issue, that we provide opportunities where they could walk for the necessities that they need in their community.
Okay, Mayor?
Okay, I didn't hear how in the response there, but I'm going to try to map out a how I think that we can improve it. Let me start by saying half of the population in Jersey City don't have cars. That's from the census. So that's an important data point. And the second thing to recognize is that when we are a growing city, which we are not near historical max of where we've been decades upon decades ago. So our infrastructure still has capacity overall when you think about where we were historically, well over 300,000 population, and where we are today. That doesn't mean that we don't have parking issues. So there's things that we could do. Number one, we need to revisit the zone parking situation. Some areas don't have zone parking, should have zone parking, and then the current zones need to be reconfigured because population has shifted. That's number one. Number two is we need to explore marking out the streets next year in order to make sure that people are parking in designated spots on the streets, similar to what they do in Union City, to kind of maximize the potential for on-street parking and make that more clear. Third, we probably need to revisit from a planning standpoint the parking to apartment ratio, which has generally been decreasing over the last couple decades. We need to revisit that. And then finally, we have an RFP out right now on Central Avenue to create a parking deck. And we need to think about that strategically where it's important, because the reality is that people do have cars. While we want to move people towards more walkable situations, we don't have the mass transit infrastructure to support it entirely. So we need to be fair and pragmatic about that. We've started down that course. I think we need to kind of continue down that course.
Isn't the number about 70% of the population of Jersey City has cars?
No.
Is it?
What
I
I've
thought
read
it
is
was
it's
72.
what I've read is it's closer to half. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I've always read that it's closer to half.
No, the bike
And-
people
and-
keep hitting me with that 1/3 of the city don't have cars.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I am saying that is that generally that soundbite comes from the Safe Street advocates and the bike advocates, and they point out the fact that we're a disproportionately high renter city and a disproportionately high non-car owner city. And so we are realistic that you still have challenges with getting around. We don't have a subway system like you do in New York where you could just jump in and move around, and we have challenges with our bus infrastructure from the state. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking for ways to do better. And I think some of the revisiting of the parking rules and how we approach it could accomplish kind of meaningful change on that front.
What about parking lots, pocket parking lots that can handle 10
like I said,
to
I
15,
think that
16
you could,
cars?
the Central Avenue parking lot that we're doing right now is looking to leverage the private sector, the developer who's going to respond to that RFP to build a parking deck based on feedback of the community. But that goes back with a conversation around kind of community givebacks. And if you have a strict inclusionary zoning ordinance, which was the conversation last time, with no flexibility, and you require union labor, which is important to us, it gives you little flexibility from an economic standpoint to do some of the things we want to do, like a parking deck, because there's just not enough capacity in the project to do that when we run the numbers from independent consultants. So that's kind of where the breakage works, and that's where we need to kind of figure that out.
What do you think, Louis?
You know, it sounds great that these are the things that we need to figure out. We had 8 years to get it together, and we have it. And essentially, we're still doing bike lanes. We're still focused on bus lanes. So we're doing all of these things when we know that parking is an issue. So where's our priorities? I would love to, instead of working in silos, for us to really figure out a way to talk to one another, to figure out a system that makes sense universally. Because essentially, we know what's happening on the ground. Folks are getting home late, right? Driving, circling their block over and over for 30, 40 minutes, and then opting to park in a place where they'll get a ticket. And all of these predatory fees began to pile up. So if we're really talking about parking, we'd have to be serious about our attempt to serve the people of the city.
Okay.
I just want to go back to that for a second, Pat. I mean, in the two responses, it's easy to point out problems and say, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. We haven't heard one potential solution. That was the question, ultimately. Now, yeah, over the last 8 years, we've done a lot to change this. We've changed the zones. We've started on that. We've done studies, and we've worked on rapid transit system on the bus systems. But the reality is that you do need community buy-in for that. So when we explore turning MLK and Ocean one way each, which is what the experts say needs to happen to have a sustainable BRT, rapid transit system, the community says they're apprehensive about that. So we continue moving in the direction with community buy-in. And you know, you said as if it was problematic that we're exploring those and bike lanes. I mean, we're very proud of what we've done in the bike lanes. We're going to continue to invest in the bike lanes. We're leading from a regional standpoint and in many ways a country's national standpoint. So we're proud of that. And the one thing that I've pointed out here is tangible solutions. Things saying, here's what we should be doing, 1, 2, 3, 4, that we're going to continue doing some of them and work towards the future on them.
Anything further, Louis?
My goal is that it just translates on the ground. That's it.
Well, one of the problems we have transportation-wise is we don't have bus service anymore. At one time, every main street in Jersey City had a bus. Central Avenue had a bus. Garfield Avenue had a bus. Boulevard had a bus. Montgomery Street had a bus. I believe Ocean Avenue had a bus. Everybody had a bus. Now we have no private bus sector at all. Everything's New Jersey Transit.
On that
And
point,
that's an issue.
I was going to ask on this topic, do you guys think VIA has been a success to date? Why or why not? And we can start with the mayor on this one.
Me again. Okay. Unequivocally, yes. It has grown exponentially every single quarter. The data speaks for itself. We've added capacity on the number of cars, 30%. It's visible. It's doing what it's supposed to do, taking people around. We need to increase the fleet next year, drive down the wait time, which is a little bit less than 15 minutes right now. But the concept is working. There's not another city in the state of New Jersey that has been able to work to incorporate its own micro-transit system like we have, using technology to bridge the gap between transit deserts. Nobody else has done it. We're the first, and we were the first for VIA to do it, actually. And if you're answering, yes, it's working. It needs to be continued to improve and have investment. Hopefully we find a key sponsor next year to lay off some of the burden on the taxpayers. But overall, it unequivocally is working, and the data speaks to that.
Okay, Louis, what do you think?
So I have to be honest, my aunt uses it all the time, and she loves it. She loves going on the app, ordering the van, and getting to where she needs to get to. But while on the trail, I sat with an elderly individual from the senior building on Union and Ocean, and she basically spoke about how, as a senior, she would pay 75 cents for the bus, and essentially she could go anywhere in the community. She talked about window shopping to buy her grandkids toys for their birthdays, or going to the gym, those types of things. And now she's having a hard time even with the VIA because she's older and she doesn't want to put her credit card on online, essentially, and so those are the gaps in the systems that we really need to improve, because we want to ensure that our seniors, particularly, have cost-effective, reliable transportation that would support them.
I just want to highlight that the example that he said. The bus system still exists in Jersey City. If the senior, as an example that he used, says that they prefer the bus, what we say to them is, that's your prerogative. The bus is still there for you to use. Nobody took away the bus. We don't control the bus. We gave you another option with VIA. And that's the important part about it. So if somebody prefers the bus, that works for them. If somebody prefers a taxi, that works for them. If somebody prefers a bike, that works for them. The key was providing options. And that's really what VIA did. It's not to replace anything. It's about optionality.
All right, we're going to break for our first intermission. You're watching the 2021 Mayoral Jersey City debate. We'll be right back in 8 minutes.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one-stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union.
I make this look good, don't I?
Who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations. Brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang. Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling.
Welcome back. 2021 mayoral debate. Mayor Stephen Fulop, his challenger, Louis Spears. I'm Pat O'Melia. My co-moderator is John Heinis. John, you want to go?
Yes, absolutely. So just finishing up on that transit conversation. So we'll start with Louis this time. And the question is, if you're elected to this 4-year term, how will you work with NJ Transit to improve the bus and light rail service in Jersey City?
So let me just back up. In terms of the seniors in the community, I think that will be a great opportunity to help with the digital divide, right? So instead of like offering, oh, this is an option versus that being an option, it will be an opportunity for a community to really galvanize around our seniors so that we can catch them up to the 21st century. In terms of working with mass transit and light rail, I would love for us to have our own community transit. I've seen it done in other cities, and I think it's awesome. Obviously, it will be a little costly here in Jersey City, but I love the convenience of that system because is ours, and we could essentially create the routes that are beneficial to the community. I would love to talk to Port Authority, talk to any of the other transits to ensure that we have a robust system for the people of Jersey City.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we've had around mass transit, other than Jersey City being unique in that we don't control any of our mass transit, not the buses, not the light rail, not the path, not the ferry system, is that we have to deal with all these different entities and it's very hard to move them. And we're constantly faced with the conversation around a chicken or egg. So they'll say that people aren't using the system and that's why they decrease services. And our argument would always be that you're decreasing services and it's not serving the public, and that's why you see a decrease in certain times of ridership. So first, I think that the big opportunity is via President Biden's infrastructure bill. If that passes, it's a big opportunity for Jersey City to leverage some of those dollars to extend the light rail. We have a couple light rail stops that are potentially going to get built out, one by Holland Gardens, which would connect a part of Jersey City, again, one of the more vulnerable communities, into the broader system. Very, very important. We raised it, we laid out the zoning and the plan around that already. We just have to capitalize on some of the dollars. And then, of course, into Bayfront. Big opportunity there. So I think the near term is getting the dollars from the federal government and the state government. And I think the longer term is a more robust conversation with the Port Authority around how they spend dollars and how they service Jersey City and more integration on planning. They're very hard to deal with, but I think that's ultimately what needs to happen.
Go ahead. Would you like to add anything? You'd like to move on?
I think this would be a perfect opportunity to bring someone else in there as a mayor to broker the deal. I do think that they've had a volatile relationship, that Mayor Fulop with the Port Authority, and this would be a perfect opportunity for someone new to step in to really broker the deal.
Let me just say, I don't know what bringing somebody new in. I mean, the Port Authority is there. They operate as the 51st state. You can't bring somebody new in to operate the PATH system. The Port Authority is there.
No, I'm saying Mayor Spears. Someone new.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, look. Let me just say, we have a very, very productive relationship with the Port Authority. Make no mistake about it. We've been enemies in litigation and been aggressive because we've been defending Jersey City's rights and interests that hasn't been defended for decades. And at the same time, we found common ground, like, for example, working on the powerhouse. So, our track record, I think, is fairly good with regards to standing our ground with things that are important for Jersey City and working together on things that are important to Jersey City. And I think that the Port Authority would say the same exact thing. If they were given the same answer, they would say that this is our relationship with Jersey City. It's productive and fair, and that's all you could really ask for.
Ready to move up?
No, I just want Pat to make sure he interviews Port Authority.
Please.
To see if they'll say the same.
No, I'm good.
Fair request. Thank you, Lewis. Go ahead, Pat.
I wrote all these questions, but during the intermission, I made a comment about the mayor pull up a question actually about what he thought about the CarePoint hospitals converting to not-for-profit, and we all decided that should be a question now. So we'll forget about all these that I wrote. Mayor Fulop, what do you think about the prospective conversion of the CarePoint hospitals to not-for-profits?
I think the details are going to be really important, and I don't think anybody's had the opportunity to really dig into it. So what does that essentially mean? What does the board look like from a nonprofit? Who's on that board is really important. How does it represent the community? Those are questions that I don't think anybody has the answer to. From 20,000 feet, if you're asking whether a nonprofit or for-profit hospital is a better model, of course I would say the nonprofit is better for Jersey City. CarePoint during COVID did a phenomenal job. They did amongst the best in the entire country, and they were recognized for that. I think that the nonprofit model will be beneficial, but I have a lot of questions still that we haven't gotten answers for.
Lewis?
I feel the same way. Essentially, we want to make sure that if it becomes nonprofit, I would love to know who's going to be on the board and what qualifications they will have. And then also the services, right? Just to ensure that those folks in all parts of our community are getting the services that they need.
Just to clarify, the CarePoint hospitals is Bayonne Hospital, Christ Hospital here in Jersey City on Palisades Avenue, and Hoboken Hospital, of course, in Hoboken, and various clinics throughout Hudson County.
Okay.
John?
Thank you. So let's jump to another topic here. So again, we'll start with Lewis. And this time, do you think we're approaching the point where, as mayor, you may have to consider an appointed Board of Education? Why or why not?
Wait, so before I start answering that question, there's a fly that I'm like this the whole time.
Yeah, I see.
I've been after him all day.
I agree with you.
All day I've been after
Really?
that guy.
Oh my goodness.
They left the door open yesterday during the council at large debate. All day I've been after that guy.
Oh
I'll get him.
man. Okay. So if you guys out there in Jersey City have seen me do this, please understand that this fly is annoying. Absolutely not. There should not be an appointed school board. I trust the people of Jersey City to vote the appropriate people in place who they trust, and I think it's a no-brainer. And to learn, right, that Mayor Fulop was suggesting that, and that it's just appalling to me that we would rather appoint folks as opposed to allowing the community to make a decision. It's a little frustrating to understand the thought processes of that.
Yeah. So let me walk through the thought process of that. So there are many examples of major cities, most recognizable across the river, that have appointed boards where the mayor and the council are accountable. The biggest challenge we have today is that nobody is accountable for the Board of Education. 2 years ago, you saw a $600 increase on the average household. Last year, you saw a $1,000 increase. They talk about another $1,000 next year. And you may be able to make the argument that more funds are needed, okay? However, there is never the conversation about what are you getting for those monies? Like, what are we getting on the outcome from the student performance, from the school standpoint? So that's frustration for me. If you were to ask 95% of the residents in Jersey City to name a single Board of Ed member, one single one, there's 9 of them, you can take your pick, one single one, I would venture to say that most could not. So what ultimately we were trying to do is create accountability, because what's working today, or what's there today, is not working. So, I've spoken to a lot of people, and maybe it's not a route that the public is comfortable with today, which I respect. That's why we're in this job, to have conversations and learn and change where appropriate. But perhaps going back to that April Board of Education election is a beneficial thing, because when we moved the Board of Education elections from April to November, unknowingly, part of what happened was that the residents no longer had the opportunity to approve or vote down the Board of Education budget. So there's no accountability essentially now. If there was some degree of accountability, perhaps there would be different outcomes and different circumstances around how they appropriate those dollars. So my frustration is really about outcomes and where that conversation is, which is the most important conversation.
Thank you. Lewis?
So, it's very difficult for Mayor Fulop and his council to run the city. So I can't imagine that they would need to add another entity to their plate. The reality here is, if we're talking about name recognition, many of our residents don't even know the name of their council members. So is that a reason to say that we need to debo the school board? At the end of the day, they're federally mandated. There are check and balance systems inside of the school system. They've operated as a separate entity for thus far. And I can't imagine them needing an oversight from the city and making appointments, because essentially we're going to be appointing, like we've done with the zoning board, the planning board, the JCRA. And so essentially all of these entities will be serving the mayor. And we need an entity that's going to be operating separately.
Lewis, the Jersey City school budget right now is $814 million. I say that like the lottery guy. You know that $814 million would be the 3rd largest Powerball jackpot in history? That's how high this thing is.
Yes.
And they can't make it go with that. Do you feel confident in that budget? Do you think that's a good budget? Should we do a forensic accounting to find out where the money is? Lewis.
So here's the deal, Pat. I feel uber confident because I was once in that space. As a teacher, when you realize, when you're teaching in a classroom where the ceiling is falling in, right? When you are, when you're, the ventilation systems where you're in the classroom and you're sweating, these are real life situations. Like folks went to PS14 recently and said that kids were learning in a room where there was mold. Right, and so that means that the monies that are being used, we need to make sure that they're getting exactly what they need in the school system. And part of the reason why the schools are where they are, right, is because as a city we did not pay our fair share, and we want to just ensure that we be responsible in that way to ensure that all of our kids are getting what they need. I hear what you're saying, Pat, but when you look on the ground, when I see my friends who are, barely making, ends meet for themselves, but they are taking their salary to, help a kid in the classroom, we have to do something about that. And to fully fund the school is the basement. We're not even, like, the ceiling is something else where we are allowing kids to, be free and explore and, different types of school communities in the city. So we haven't even gotten to that point because we still haven't been fully funded.
I'm not even sure on that $814 million budget there is maintenance and repair.
Do you know how many people that $814 million budget serve, right? And
30,000 students.
30,000 students, teachers, right? And then when we're talking about the needs of the particular students, we're not even we're looking at the general ed, but then special education, others, other things that the kids need. We want to make sure that we're helping the holistic child, right? The whole child. Some of us, there are community schools as well, where because a community, the schools aren't getting what they need from the community, they create community schools, right? And so they have to fund that as well. So there's a bunch of things happening in the school system that allows for amazing operation.
There's almost a $10,000 per student difference between Jersey City and Tom's River.
I think I agree with a lot of his points. We have some great teachers. There's some problems in the schools, in the facilities. And what he said is the greatest argument for why what's there is not working. So the mold, the ventilators, the cooling system, that is the responsibility of the Board of Education. That's why they're there. That's why they control that budget. And for decades, they've done nothing. They find time to do what they need to do, to hire people in the central office, to do things that they need to do to expand the budget on personnel, to negotiate generous contracts. But they prioritize different things. So you'd be hard pressed to argue that what's in the schools today is a model of success. We have some successful stories, there's no question about that, but we also have some terrible stories where kids are trapped in failing schools with zero accountability. So it's easy to say mold, no air condition, and then you scratch your head and say, well, that's why that Board of Education is there. They're supposed to fix that. Parents were outraged this year because the bare minimum to prepare on COVID for the schools was not done. Nothing. With $814 million and massive money coming from the Biden administration, that's problematic. So when you talk about a change, which is basically what I'm saying, we need to be fair. And who is losing in this conversation? It's not necessarily the teacher or administrator in the central office. It's that kid, the same kid he's talking about, the same kid I'm talking about. And that's the problem ultimately. I think all of his points are fair, but they only reaffirm the fact that you need change there. That's really ultimately what the problem is. And the city has stepped in more than any administration in the history of the city, building new schools, stepping up with any way to repair lead pipes. That's the facts of this.
Lewis, I assume you want to say something else?
You see my eyes, right?
I saw you, yeah.
So it's really about priorities. I really appreciate how recently there's a partnership between the city and the school board. That's awesome. But we also need to make sure that we're paying the fair share. Bottom line, because essentially we're giving money to things like, vanity projects like Pompidou, and we're giving money to Sci Tech City, but we're not giving the money that the school needs. The schools need. We can do a better job in supporting our own. That's very important to me.
Mayor,
Okay,
vanity
I just need
projects?
to respond. There is a fundamental misunderstanding around how government works when you say you need to pay your fair share. Because the city doesn't collect money and then transfer it over to the Board of Education with some magic pot of 50, 60, $7 million. The Board of Education is an independent taxing entity with their own budget, as Pat said, of $814 million. They decide what their priorities are. They raised the levy this year over $1,000 on the average household to fully fund based on the formula. And now there's not one conversation about what are we getting for that money. Nothing. Zero. And that's what the problem is. So it's very easy to say you should pay more and you should pay more. But when you take a step back and you say the taxpayer in Jersey City and the state is paying $25,000-ish, give a little, take a little, per student to educate them in the Jersey City school system for sometimes a failing school, is that right? And is the problem then more money or less money is needed? I would argue it's
15
more
seconds.
accountability.
Would you like to go on?
Yes. So just in general, I'm very clear about how government works, and my vanity project will be for the schools and the kids of this community. My son goes to a public school system here, right here in Jersey City, and I'm very proud of the school and the schools in our city. Could they be improved? Yes, but they won't be able to. I want to make sure that they are in the best possible situation, and as the next mayor, that's the goal.
Okay. I just want to say, what I think is important about this job is that there's concrete decisions. It's not about platitudes. It's not about an acronym when you look on a website that you want to see concrete plans. Not just that I'm going to make it better, right? I'm going to make the streets safer. Seniors should have access to transit everywhere. Those are great things. We all agree on that. It's how do you get there? And you'd be hard pressed to argue, if you look at it objectively, to say that the schools are serving those 30,000 children the best that they can. And when you know that the schools have a larger budget than the city, and you look at their track record, mold, no air conditioning, basic things, COVID, cleanliness, basic things, you got to scratch your head and say, is this the best system? And I think a reasonable parent that is not in the political world where they're with Lewis or me, I think would say, you know, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. What am I getting for that? And that's the conversation ultimately.
Anything further?
And just FYI, Spears for JerseyCity.com. We have our policy online. You're more than welcome to go and read it, and it's great. You guys will really appreciate it. Spears for JerseyCity.com.
Who's got the next question?
Also, Stephen Fulop.
Yeah, you weren't going to get a free plug, but it was a good try.
Who's got the next one?
It's you, but we're running short, so I don't know how you want to do
Oh,
this.
well, we got to get to affordability of Jersey City. And with an $814 million school budget, affordability is difficult. Affordable housing, how do we make affordable housing, how do we make Jersey City more affordable? That's a question, and we only got 2 minutes and 28 seconds to answer it. Mayor Fulop.
I mean, that's a longer conversation.
We can come back and finish
look,
it, but
look, I think it's
Yeah.
worth. Let me start by saying I think it's worthwhile to come back to, because it's something that we both share and are passionate about. And you know, there's a lot of things that have to be discussed. You know, you need a comprehensive IZO, how you leverage the development in private sector, how you use some of the dollars that we have from the federal government and the state government. You know, to revisit some of the laws around rent control and rent stabilization and destabilization. How do all those things work? But you see this affordability crisis throughout New Jersey, throughout northern New Jersey, and throughout this region. And it is a major challenge. And I don't think anybody has been able to really crack the code yet. We are very, very close to a reasonable compromise with fair share housing that I think they're comfortable with. I know they are, and that we're comfortable with the goal of continuing to grow the city so that you can keep taxes stable, and at the same time increasing affordability. So for me, it's a conversation. I took up exactly half of the time that was left, Louis.
I'll let it roll.
You can go over
Yeah,
a little.
but
You can go a little.
I mean, we could do something else in the meantime.
No, go ahead.
No, please do your answer. We'll do the rebuts when we come back.
But affordability has a lot to do with the inclusionary zoning ordinance, but it also talks about, the rent control, the rent to own, right? We're talking about workforce opportunities for, teachers, firefighters, police officers and things like that. In terms of the IZO, I just believe that there needs to be a 20% affordable housing to ensure, so 20% low to moderate income housing for mixed units. Did I say that right?
Sounds good.
No, he said no.
You're close. You're close. But go ahead. Go ahead.
No, how do you say that?
I think you'd say that you're looking for a mixed blend between low and moderate and workforce. I think we understood what you're saying. But
Yes,
go ahead.
and that's what I stand on.
Yeah.
Essentially, when we're talking about,
Go ahead.
so in '98, Jersey City and Manhattan were on the same level when it came to introducing an IZO. Since '98, Manhattan has passed 5 inclusionary zoning ordinances, and Jersey City has passed 0. And so we have to be vigilant about ensuring that people are able to stay here. Right, my cousin, she's homeless essentially. She's living with my aunt, the one who catches the via vans, and it's very difficult for her to make meaning of her world if she doesn't have a place to stay. Right, and so the IZO, the 20%, we should also talk about homelessness as well. We met Rosa in the Heights, who was talking about basic needs, and so we have to get real serious about this, because the longer we wait, the more opportunities that we have for folks to go without. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart.
Clearly, yes. But we're going to continue this conversation when we come back. So we're going to take our second and final break, and we'll see you in 8 minutes.
All right.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union,
I make this look good, don't I?
who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations. brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, located right off of NJ 440 North. Across the Hudson Mall is your one stop for all your automotive needs. Check out Ford's latest models like the 2020 Ford Fusion with its stylish looks and hybrid options, or the unparalleled high-performance 2020 Ford Mustang. The 2020 Ford F-150 Raptor is ready for those rugged off-road terrains with trail control. Need a mid-sized truck for your towing and hauling? The 2020 Ford Ranger will deliver. The 2020 Ford Escape is a luxury SUV that was made for comfort and adventure on the go. Returning is Ford's legendary Bronco, which takes you back to the true meaning of off-roading. They are now available for pre-order in our showroom or on our website. Let us help you find your next vehicle. Stevens Jersey City Ford, 201-432-7272.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Good evening. I'm John Heinis from Hudson County View, and I'm here at Hudson Media Group as part of the 2021 Jersey City mayoral debate with Pat O'Mealia next to me. And of course, we have the candidates, Mayor Stephen Fulop and challenger Lewis Spears. So right before the break, we were talking about affordability. And Lewis, you just finished your thought. Mayor, would you like to continue?
Oh, we just had an 8-minute gap between talked about a lot of things here.
Yes.
Look, I think that where he and I agree, and I think most in the city council agree, is that the affordability conversation is the most important conversation over the next year and 4 years. And you know, we gotta act quickly. And the challenge is that nobody's been able to figure it out, not just in Jersey City, anywhere. New York City, regionally, there's not really a city in the country that has created a good model around this. You see progressive cities out west that are struggling with this. So the hope is to find an ordinance that balances out economic growth, which is important for a healthy city, and at the same time incentivize buildable affordable housing. And the key for our buildable is actually the low income. Like really that's the gap in Jersey City, is the low income. And so we really need to figure out how to get that, which is the most challenging type of housing to incorporate.
You know, so the interesting thing is there was an IZO that was passed, essentially. And then it was struck down by the judge, right? And so apparently you guys thought that that was the most appropriate version. So what I'm trying to understand is why the kickback? Because essentially, right, folks are losing their homes. I have young men in my organization. One particular young man who was a senior last year, and he has epilepsy. And he had to move out of his, they were displaced because his mom couldn't afford to live there anymore. What are we saying to them that on the government side, the legislative side, that we can't get it together? Yeah,
so I think that the ordinance that we passed, I think was a very, very good ordinance. I still think it was a good ordinance. The court struck it down on some technicalities on how we approached it. Nevertheless, the principle of having flexibility for the community, I think, is important. We talked earlier about having parking authority or parking facilities, or we talked about arts and culture during the break. All of those things could either get paid for one of two ways. They could either get paid for by the private sector, if we're thoughtful, or by the public sector, which is very expensive. And everybody likes those things as well. So I think ultimately you need to find a balance. And for every project, we hire independent consultants to run the numbers. And when you put in union labor, which is expensive, when you put in community givebacks, which is necessary from the community standpoint, and the requirements on affordability, and focused on low income, it becomes very, very hard economically. And being that the city's historically been very generous with zoning, the developer always has the option, unfortunately, to say, I'll build it what I got 20 years ago, and I'll just stick to that, and I don't need to do anything. And that's not a good outcome for us. So that's the balance that we're trying to do, and I think we're close to it. So just, that's where we differ as well. I don't think that the inclusionary zoning ordinance that they passed was appropriate. Like buyouts, community givebacks, essentially, it sounds good in theory, but the reality is, when we opt out of affordability to give community givebacks, what happens is those people who we intend to support through the community givebacks aren't even able to live there because they would have been they have been bought out essentially. And so what we're saying, it sounds good in theory, but on the ground we are missing the mark in many ways if we think that buyouts and community givebacks should be options right now. So all I wanted to say is that there's a difference between rhetoric and actuality, and I'm going to play that out both different ways. I'd like to say that we're going to require 30% affordable housing. I'd like to say 50% affordable housing. And we'll do a nice press rollout, we'll get some national attention, nothing will get built. And that's not productive for anybody. Councilman Solomon, interestingly enough, who is I think a supporter of yours and you're a supporter of his project that he points to at every single debate is Saddlewood Court. Now, what is Saddlewood Court? It is the largest zoning change in the history of Jersey City. He let them go down to 5% affordable housing, and as a community benefit, they built a school. And that was the arrangement that he brokered. And he touts it every time. That is exactly what our inclusionary zoning was. Exactly, to a T. To a T. Now, it's easy to get up here and say, I want 20%, 25%, but when you get there and you actually pencil it out, it becomes problematic. So where do I think we're going to land? I think we're going to land ultimately with a sliding scale based on your neighborhood.
15 seconds.
Because I think that it's important to have blended communities, and Fair Share Housing acknowledges that. I think the ranges are going to go between 5% and 15% ultimately, and there's going to be some limited opportunities for community givebacks. And I think Fair Share Housing ultimately finds that as a reasonable and creative approach.
Time.
And that's where we are today. With a little nuances I'd like to expand on, but we're out of time, I guess.
Okay, so moving on. Okay, so obviously those watching at home couldn't see, but we really didn't have much of a break here in the studio. We were having quite a spirited discussion about the Pompidou. So Louis, as far as the Pompidou Center, is this a good long-term investment for Jersey City? Why or why not?
Remember the conversation we just had?
So, Pompidou, I'm like, it's not, it's gonna happen, right? But am I excited about it? No. Essentially, because it's going to happen, I want to ensure that three things happen, right? That we have a robust inclusionary zoning ordinance, and in Ward C particularly, where it's going to be, because we know that real estate is going to go up, and we want those who are there, we want to protect them and make sure that they can stay there, right? Employment opportunities. We want to ensure that there are employment opportunities, but also tracks for leadership. Because there needs to be a true partnership and not just the Pompidou leadership imposing, what exactly needs to happen. Because essentially, you're coming into our community, and so there needs to be a robust partnership. And then lastly, that our schools, our young people need to have access to it, but not in a way where they're learning something new, right? Because at the end of the day, like I said in our last forum, I don't need the Pompidou system to be our standard of what art is. We have amazing artists in our community who do great work, and I would like to see a lot of what they do be showcased and highlighted to let our kids know that this is a standard for you to attain.
Okay.
First of all, I think it's a wonderful thing for Jersey City. It puts us on the world stage. It will attract economic activity. It will highlight our artist community at the local level and amplify their voices, give them an opportunity to get onto the world stage. And most importantly, access for Jersey City residents and an education compartment for our children, generally run through the library. Make no mistake, nothing is a fait accompli. Nothing is done. The next mayor could come in and change course on anything. And I always say that the things that we've started and we're moving forward, they are fragile. And this is a big difference with regards to opinion. I believe that this is the right thing for Jersey City, short-term and long-term. And you're going to expose children that never had the opportunity to see some of this to world-renowned, world-class artists. And they can decide whether this is what they want to pursue or not want to pursue, but they should have the opportunity to see it and learn about it. And so here we are. It's a unique opportunity, and the fact that the governor committed $24 million, the largest line item of anything in the state budget over there, speaks to the significance. He's a smart guy. He understands urban areas. He's been touted by a lot of the urban areas as somebody who's been very progressive, thoughtful, and he's making the commitment there around this because it's significant. And it's unfortunate that we get into the political rhetoric because I think, again, if you look at it objectively, you can't say this is a bad thing. Of course, local leadership, and that's important to the Pompidou. They would tell you local leadership. Of course, local artists, and that's important to the Pompidou. They would tell you that in every one of the meetings. They chose this community where they could have gone anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. They chose this for those reasons. And it would be so foolish of us to turn our back on it.
Just in general, I personally have an issue with this top-down approach, right? We're saying, hey, this is a Pompidou, this is the standard, this is what you guys need to understand, learn about, develop. Understand, learn about, and take it in, because this is what the world is talking about. This is what the standard is. At the end of the day, we have amazing artists here in Jersey City, and I wish that the approach was different. I don't think folks are upset about the fact that Pompidou is gonna be here for real, right? I think that is the method by which it was given, right? Like, if we're talking about developing this art system, this art group, and respecting the value that they bring to the city, how could we then say, listen,
15 seconds.
How can we then say, hey, this is what the standard is, figure it out? Like, we need to do a better job at bringing in, and we're going to bring in outside entities that we need to make sure that they are respectful of the community that exists here already.
Time.
They've never done anything to be disrespectful. And And this is not an overnight process. This was a 6-year process that the council was involved in. There were elections in between this that the council was reelected towards. There was a long, long process to get there. Now, I don't make up the standard saying the Pompidou is significant. I don't make up the standard the Met's significant, the MoMA, the Louvre. All of them are significant because of what they bring to the art world. And it is ridiculous to say that we should not allow or include that for Jersey City people. It is absolutely ridiculous to say that I am picking out what the standard is. It is the largest collection of contemporary art in all of Europe. Why should Jersey City children not have access to that? Why? Because we have a local artist that we're also helping? We should help that person as well. And our track record with the Arts Trust Fund, with finding them space and building them, Nimbus, Art House Production, we've done those things. You can do both. But to say that that's a bad thing is just ridiculous, Louis. It is ridiculous.
I never said it was a bad thing.
Or,
just for the record.
well, you
I
said that.
That's so I don't know.
Okay. I mean, okay.
Just so that
I
we're
mean,
clear.
Right. Okay. I mean, my point
I'm
exactly.
indifferent. Maybe I'm indifferent. That's what it means.
You know, look, a vibrant city has a lot of things going on where they take care of their most vulnerable. Important. It's safe streets. Important. It's a livable city. Important. It has arts and culture. Important. Restaurants and destinations. Important. Affordability. All of those things. But you can't say that an opportunity like this in arts and culture, you can't dismiss it. You can't say, because it's not. It's something special and unique to have a partnership like that that will expose kids from Booker T, from areas that never had the opportunity to go to Paris. Those types of kids, the opportunity to see things that they never had the opportunity to see before. And that is what we're trying to do.
So what the mayor doesn't understand, and this is the conversation that we had offline, is that the kids in Booker T, they couldn't care less about a frickin' Picasso, right? There's so many other like competing things that are happening in Booker T, i.e. gun violence in the community, i.e. kids not having food to eat, right? When we're talking about what's needed in the community, they're not thinking about a Pompidou Center. They're not thinking about a Picasso. And listen. And at the end of the day, I am an educator at heart, right? Whatever I do, I educate folks. The reality is we're not adverse to kids learning about it or having a real life experience with it. What I'm saying is there are other competing priorities in our city that we should be putting our efforts into making sure that our community has what it needs.
Okay, so
that's all I'm saying.
And my point is, I agree. Those are not mutually exclusive things. It's not try to solve food deserts, which we're doing. Try to put head starts in problem-challenged areas, which we're doing. Deal with gun violence, which we're doing. And at the same time, invest in education opportunities. Those are things we should be doing together and that we're doing. You can't unilaterally dismiss one part of it. If we're doing them all, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And like, it's not fair to say that we're going to dismiss anything that is cultural arts because there are these other challenges. It's all part of it. It's all part of after school, all part of extra educational components.
We'll take a bow on the landmark Lowe's Theater, by the way. It's been 20 years in the making. We're finally going to renovate it. It's going to be a turnkey operation for theater, concerts, and all.
So Pat,
and it's on Journal Square.
I just have to say this, and John, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I would be remiss if I allowed you to say that you are doing something with gun violence in the community.
There's no way you can say that we're not doing something with gun violence. And I'm not saying.
I didn't interrupt you.
Okay, go ahead.
All
Go
right.
ahead, Louis.
So homicide. When you're talking about homicide for 2021, we were up 31%.
Okay.
And so when we're talking about handling it, we need to be vigilant about the preventative measures for the people in our community. And so I hear what you're saying, right? And it sounds good in terms of rhetoric, but when we're on the ground, folks are feeling unsafe.
Okay.
Folks are feeling like they don't belong here.
Guys, so can we ask another question? We'll do something on violent crime.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's go with crime. We already got the audience watching.
It would be the same thing as me saying 3 years ago we had the lowest homicide rate in the history of Jersey City, and 5 years ago we did. The trend undeniably is downward. The number of gun incidents this year has trended downwards. And like I said, this is not made up by me. This is FBI statistics. The Jersey City Times wrote this. The homicide rate is up, and it's not all gun violence. We had a homicide 2 weeks ago that was a strangulation inside an apartment. Okay?
Yeah,
so
that
it's
wasn't counted in the 31%, but go ahead.
no, it is. It is.
No, it couldn't have been. The article was already written.
No,
with the 31% in it.
no.
So go ahead.
Well, okay. So let me say this. All of the homicides this year, okay, they're not all gun violence, regardless. Okay, I used the one from a week or a week and a half ago as another example. My point is that gun violence is trending down, and it's unacceptable to us, like it's unacceptable to you, until it's zero. That nobody should have to live in a community that suffers or a child hears gun violence, period. Full stop. And we're working towards that. But again, to say that everything is on the rise is just not factual. It's good political rhetoric. I could appreciate that, but it's not factual.
So let me be clear, right? And I'm going to draw a comparison. The fatalities with cars, right, were comparable to the gun violence in our community. Yet, right, in Jersey City, there's an entire initiative around, bike lanes and, improving fatalities and things like that with cars and human beings. We haven't done anything when it comes to guns killing people, particularly because it's in one part of the city?
No. See, again, going back, I get it. It's easy to do what you did initially, polarizing one part of the city versus I get it. I understand that that's easy, but that is not true. When gun violence has been decreasing, we've done it in a lot of different ways. We have more recreational opportunities. We've done a reentry program that was a model for the entire country. We've invested in law enforcement. We've done multiple things, and the results speak for it. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's perfect, because it's definitely not. It's definitely not.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't think that's fair. I get it. We're in a debate, and it's easy. Like the soundbite is, this area didn't get water bottles, this area got water bottles, this area has gun violence. Why? Because they're a different part. I get it.
No,
but
listen.
it's just not. But we got to deal in facts and a platform.
Listen, Steve, this is not political for me.
No, I know
My
it's not.
kids
But
dying in the
listen,
streets?
listen.
That's
Guys,
never
one at a time. One at a time.
No, let me just say this.
No,
It's
Louis.
never. Let me finish. I'll let you speak. So
Go
let me
ahead, Louis.
speak.
Go ahead.
So it's never political for me. This is real life. When I had a young man at PS24, Rodney. He passed away this year to gun violence. And at the end of the day, we need to be clear about our efforts to make a difference in their lives. In 2018, there was a study done for gun violence in the community, a gun violence community needs assessment or something like that. There were four recommendations given to us in the city. We paid tens of thousands of dollars to get it done, right? There were 4 recommendations, and we haven't implemented any of those since 2018.
So that is not accurate, okay? And I understand that we are in a debate, okay? And I go back to the fact when you say this whole time, we've been here for an hour and a half, and it's easy to say the political rhetoric and sound bites. It's hard to say, here's what I'm gonna do money-wise and invest in this and pay for this and take the money from there. And not once, Louis, in an hour and a half debate, did you have one thing on that front. It's the same thing. It's easy to polarize. It's easy, but that's not helpful for where the city is today. It's not. And you see the crime decreasing. It's not perfect. It's not. But at the end of the day, I don't make that
15
up.
seconds.
And we're not accepting it. Let me be clear.
Listen.
We're not accepting it until it's zero.
And you cannot tell Celeste, Rodney's mom, that crime is going down as a response to her son being dead.
You cannot. Look. I like I said to you initially, it is unacceptable for anybody to live in gun violence. It is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And that is our goal. To drive that out entirely.
Yes, and so now we need to make an initiative, preventative work around it, like we did with the bike lanes, right? Like let's make an initiative so that our kids in our communities feel as though they belong, feel as though they are safe.
And every day, what I said earlier, the number one priority is public safety. Number one. It's more important. I mean, it's the second time that you brought up the bike lanes. I get it. It's an easy thing for people to
No, it's a
gravitate
comparison, right?
I get it. It's an easy comparison. I get it.
Guys,
but I get it. But the reality is our number one priority every single day is public safety. When we get up, public safety. That is the first call I have every single day, in the middle of the night, every single day. So you could say that crime is
15 seconds.
increasing, but the facts don't speak to that. The facts don't speak to that. Is it perfect? No. Is it acceptable to me? No. But you can't say that, Louis. It's not fair.
So I didn't say crime was increasing, just so that we're clear.
Well, you did.
I said homicide
Okay, all right, okay.
has increased by 31%. I want to be very clear about that. And the other thing I want to be clear about, I'm grateful that you have, this, is on your agenda. Right, that's important that it would be. However, it needs to be actions connected to whatever the agenda is. That's all I'm saying.
Going back, no, wait, it's an important conversation, and the most important conversation. Our reentry program was one of the first things that I did. Okay, wait, stop.
I didn't say anything.
Okay, like one of the first things that I did, expanding JCEPT. Again, very, very important, okay? We brought in new leadership there. We're actually doing some things that are really, really great as far as training goes, where we moved it to make it more accessible. On the gun violence, I mean, we could talk about the police being in the community for the first time, living in the community for the first time, reflecting the community for the first time. Those are things that happened under our watch. And that's largely the reason that you're seeing a decrease. It's not accidental. It's not accidental. It didn't just happen.
We're going to have to agree to disagree.
I would say so. Real quick on this topic, we're running short on time, but there was a report last year from Pix 11 that said Jersey City's 911 system was not operating at 100% functionality. So if elected for a 4-year term, what would you do to try to improve that and try to make it on par with neighboring communities?
So in general, right, when we're talking about the whole police, public safety, that's paramount on my list of getting things done, right? And the fact that, folks will call and not have access to, the dispatcher, or that there's a delay in response, those things are unacceptable. And so how do we fix that, right? Obviously, hiring more people in the dispatch room, in the dispatch room, what am I saying? As dispatchers, right? And to support the community, creating systems around ensuring that folks, when they call, that there's an approximate time given so that they could know when to expect, right? Just tighten up around those systems. What I think is happening is that many of our police officers are being stretched, right, or placed in particular communities, and so they're not available to do other things around the community. So we have to look a little. We have to take a macro look of crime in our community, and not just babysit those folks and contain them in one particular area. Because in doing that, we are creating, the stretch of the police department. So, doing things to build up that community.
15 seconds.
So that they're not just babysitting those people in one part of the community. Then I think that will be the answer to fixing the problem.
Thank you.
So I think there's a couple things that need to happen. The first is revisiting the compensation structure. We pay less than Bayonne, we pay less than any of our neighboring communities, and you see attrition within the dispatchers as a result of that. Secondly, I think a continued investment in technology. We've been doing that, and I think we need to continue to do that. Every single time that there is a complaint, they're not always justified or validated, so to speak. But every time there is a complaint of an inadequate response, it is entirely investigated. Sometimes it has merits, often it does not. But it's unacceptable for anybody to call 911 and not have a response. And I think you need to invest a little bit more in the people there, and that's something that we're looking at on how to do that in a cost-effective way.
Okay.
Well, we only have 3 minutes and 14 seconds left. I want to make sure you guys have time for your closing statements, so we may as well start with the closing statements now. Louis, you want to kick it off?
Oh, okay. So what do you have here is a tale of two candidates. Under the Fulop administration, the community has been, we have failed the community. And so at this point, we have a unique opportunity to elect someone who is for the people, who's empathetic, who has been on the ground supporting folks, ensuring that individuals get what they need, make sure that the community has been effectively developed in multiple facets, whether it was in education, whether it's in nonprofit, whether it's in the government sector, which I just which I have for the county. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself a question: has your life improved in the past 8 years under the Steve Fulop administration? And if the answer is no, then you need to make that decision to vote for Louis Spears, because you belong to be here. Thank you.
Mayor Fulop.
I want to say thank you to Louis for the conversation today, and thank you to you guys for moderating it.
Very welcome.
Jersey City is a special place. I'm raising my 2 kids here. I have a phenomenal wife. I'm going to be here forever. And we share a belief and a goal of making Jersey City the best place it can possibly be. You'd be hard to argue that we haven't seen progress over the last 8 years. We've seen tangible and meaningful change in every part of the city. You could visibly see it and you can feel it. And the job isn't done. I'll be the first to say it. I've said it repeatedly. Here are things that we're working on and to continue to improve. But we're making progress, and we're doing it at a faster pace than anybody else in the state, if not the country. This job is responsible for 3,000 employees and a $600 million budget. And some basic platform tenets and some basic clear direction are important, are responsibilities of anybody running for government, not pie in the sky aspirations, this is wrong and that's wrong. How are we going to fix it? Because that's what we do every single day. And so my hope is that you come out on November 2nd and you recognize the progress. And you come out and you vote for the entire Team Fulop slate and continue Jersey City moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That wraps up our debate. Hopefully we have given you something to think about. Hopefully we have helped you make an informed decision when you go to the voting booths on the 2nd of November. And don't forget, early voting begins this weekend. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Louis. John, thank you. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you,
I'm Pat
Pat.
O'Melia. Good night.
You can tell you're used to this.